Davos is also hanging out in the belly of the whale, which is a biblical reference, I believe. It's I think Jonas was in the whale. I'm not
Jonah. Yeah,
100%.
Jonah.
Jonah. There we go. It's been a while since my last.
Yeah, so only two of the Jonas brothers ever made it inside of a whale. The other ones, yeah. All right. Hello, and welcome back to Vassals of Kingsgrave for our 70th edition of the great linear reread through A Song of Ice and Fire. Let's see, last episode we covered, February 20th of 300. This episode will cover February 20th through the 24th. So events are still chronologically kind of pretty tight here. We're going to be having 3 chapters, all from A Dance with Dragons: Theon 1, Jon 3, and Davos 1, or Reek 1, really, not Theon. Yeah, I'll be your host for today. My name is Adam, also known as drownedsnow on the forums, and I am joined by...
Hey, this is Matt, Blue Armor on the forums.
Hey, it's Nymeria on the forums and Mary in real life.
Jock, Monroe in real life, and Monroe Jock in the forums.
Howdy, it's Leigh, chaotic neutral in the forums.
And this is Enigmas, Ty in real life.
All right, so Ty, this is your first time on with us, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. So we got to do the standard hazing here. Just the basic background questions, I guess. So how did you get into Song of Ice and Fire?
Well, I had a friend who kept bugging me to read this book. He said, it's coming to HBO and you need to read this. So after I watched the first season, I started reading these books because they're spectacular. And I loved all of Game of Thrones. It's probably my favorite of the books. And getting to read through Clash of Kings as season 2 was going on. And I had kind of an interesting experience as we were coming up on the Red Wedding. My friends were trying to be like, oh, something big might be happening. And they were just kind of hinting without spoiling. And I had this impression that things were starting to get bad. So I actually decided to go ahead and read right up to Catelyn when they were at the Red Wedding and watch the show for the Red Wedding.
Interesting.
So I did this. I decided to do it that way, just to throw a wrench in with everyone encouraging me to get through that chapter first. I was like, hang on.
That series of chapters, man, are just. We've covered them several times, but they're very intense. And it's the crescendo of like literally the first act, I guess. I've told this story before, but HBO seems to have gotten a lot of people into the show. I remember. I'd heard of the series, but I'd not really given it much mind. And then there was an article that was like, okay, this series coming and it's going to be big. And I'm like, HBO is doing a fantasy? Like, that's probably not going to go anywhere. But I was like, let me check it out. So, I watched the premiere and everyone was into it. And I think it was like the second or third episode I was reading online. And like people were like, oh man, I can't wait to see Ned's head, cut off. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I went out and bought the book, and I read the book. I read the book.
That one blew me away too.
And then I just kept going, So I was like, well, fuck that. I'm just going to read all this stuff real quick and get it out of the way. But, so do you have a favorite character?
Oh yeah. So I'm actually a Davos man myself because he seems to be on the show. I'm rather on the right in the books. He's like one of the only decent men that are around. We've got Jon and Sam. And Brienne is a great individual, and Jaime seems to be on the rebound. But then we're just saturated with all these characters throughout the novels that are so dastardly and evil, or just self-absorbed, as in Cersei's case. So, it's refreshing to see someone who cares about their friends and is also tactful and loyal too. So, Davos all the way, man.
Yeah,
Dastardly, what a wonderful word.
The loyalty from the smuggler, and just kind of he's one of the most stand-up guys, and he was a criminal for a very long time, but The fact also that he kind of just put a stop to that and went to serve Stannis was, says a lot about his character, I think.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Especially after the dude took, half his hand, right? Like most people would be real bitter, and he's like, well, I did deserve it. And, yeah, sometimes Davos is too nice.
Some interesting pathos going on in his mind there, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Anything else you want to share? Like, how did you find VOK? What brought you to our community?
Oh, I was actually Googling around for podcasts not long after, I think, Red Wedding, and I did come across Podcast of Ice and Fire. And Amin, during one of my, I was trying to listen to the episodes and catch up, and Amin mentioned Vassals of Kingsgrave. I couldn't tell you what episode. And I scooted over and found you guys and been listening ever since. So there you go.
Have you read along in the reread?
Yeah. So I've been keeping up. Yep. Not page for page or every chapter, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm curious as to, yeah. So yeah, you guys have fostered some rereads across the internet.
Yeah, I mean, the linear reread was just sort of started. Bina just was like, I want something different because we've already read these books so many times, and it's really taken a life of its own. And I mean, right now we're a bit all over the place sometimes. Like, I think like this is episode 70. We're sort of going back in time because I think only 67 has been published right now, and we've already recorded up to 74, 73.
Yeah,
73.
I think 73 has been recorded.
I think I'm supposed to do 74, but I'm not quite sure, so I'm waiting anyway because I'm editing 68 and it's not done yet. So
we've got enough. We've got enough coming in the pipeline for the next couple of months. So, but it is just kind of funny. So I mean, this will be recorded. We did 73, and I was like, oh crap! I got to go read some of these chapters in between. It's a lot to read because I usually just will read the chapters as the episodes come up or as I'm hosting or whatever. So there's a bit of, kind of messes with the structure a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. So let's just get into it. Mm-hmm. What do we got here? Theon 1 or Reek, his first chapter in Dance with Dragons. He's in his cell at the Dreadfort. And I believe, Matt, you have the recap for us on that?
Well, I do. All right. Once upon a time, not long ago, there lived a little douchebag seeking daddy's approval. He killed 2 miller's boys to make a big show, and then was struck down for his grand betrayal. He was a smarmy little crook who liked gold trim on his leather pants. Then he got tortured for 2 books, and now he's the best POV in dance. The thing that was once a man cowers in the corner of his cell, nodding greedily at the rat he has caught. Luckily, he no longer notices the smell or that his clothes have begun to rot. It's been days since his last meal, although it's tough to keep track of time. The man is barely sure of what is real and is stuck thinking in rhyme. There's only so many words that go with Reek, but the man has thought of them all. The silence is broken by a tiny shriek when he hears voices down the hall. The boys look upon the thing in horror, unsure if he is the one they seek. They were told to go to the last door. Therefore, this must be Reek. His 2 gaolers are merely boys, but the man looks upon them with dread. They abuse him like he was one of their toys, unaware that one of them will soon be dead. It's time to play Come Into My Castle. Lord Ramsay wants to continue the game, so you better not make this a hassle and never, ever forget your name. The man has been taught well, whipped and beaten like a dog. He was kept forever in this tiny cell, roasted and flayed like a hog. By his magnificence, Lord Ramsay Bolton, who likes to hunt the most dangerous game, as long as he has at least 20 good men to ensure his prey remains tame. He has hounds in his followers, a 90s stud earring and a fondness for pink. The man is led through a gathering of pollivers, enjoying a banquet of meat and drink. Next to Ramsay on the raised pew sit 2 lords overseeing the feast. One is a chained man by a man chained by a nephew, and the other is a vulture with an awesome niece. The man was down 3 fingers and 4 toes, but Ramsay had a use for him yet. For the man once knew the bastard's betrothed, and was the key to taking back the neck. The poor thing was frozen in wordless terror, in an endless spiral of Stockholm Syndrome. He had once been offered hope by a true warrior, but she was dead, and the fight had left him. And so the man no longer thinks of escape. He knows it'll just be another trick. Lord Ramsay always enjoyed a good jape. At least the man still had his... Oh, wait. Shit. That's it.
Nice.
What did we do to deserve you?
It was such a dark chapter.
I'm glad you took this chapter, Matt.
I know,
you did better than I would have.
I'm just more worried about making sure my chapters are coherent and make sense.
It's all right. I've been slowly building with my chapter recaps.
Yeah, these are uncomfortable chapters.
Yeah.
They are.
And I did it all just to get that last line in there because I had to.
I figured
end on that particular joke.
Just wanted to finish with the dick joke.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote that line first and then wrote everything in front of it.
Yeah. So on that note, Bina left a few notes. She always used to think that Ramsay's character was quite overdone, but she also thinks that there's something chilling and realistic about how weak-willed sidekicks go along with a scary, aggressive sadist. So, and you got the little Walder and Big Walder, and one of the saddest points for me in this chapter was when he was like, "Wait, those could be? How long have I been in here? That could be the children of the people I knew as Little Walder and Big Walder."
Yeah,
like shows you just how mind fucked he's been. But she also points out that when they mentioned that he's going to be marrying Arya Stark, he says that she's only a girl, and this is the first time. And I think this is the first time that he's shown sympathy for someone else, and that's probably right, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
Go for it, man.
Okay, yeah. Well, the last line in the chapter is like, I think he's like, "Oh, you have to help me get my virgin bride," and I remember just reading that and just recoiling, just like, "Oh my god, just stop, please." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully we know it's not Arya and all that, and all the stuff that's going on. But I mean, Theon doesn't know that, and just the whole idea is just nuts. But at least he's still got something in his mind enough to say, like, well, like that's wrong. He's less. I mean, he doesn't want. Obviously, he's fearful for himself, but at the same time, he's kind of like, well, I mean, that's fucked up.
He's holding on to sanity just a little bit, like just enough to like keep him going. That's why I really like the, him kind of working things out. It's like, no, these are still those two boys. I can't have been here that long. Like, so he's still at least thinking somewhat there in the corners of his brain.
Well, I mean, he's been forced to eat rats in his own fingers, and I mean, he's probably been sleep deprived. And
oh yeah, I mean, if he ate his own finger, then he gets punished. So he tried to, and but
he got busted.
Yeah, he got busted, and one of the lords is like, "This grows tedious. Just kill him." It's like, oh my god, who are the kinds of company that Ramsay is keeping at the Dreadfort? It's just
I like that some of the other lords are at least sort of like, this is a bit much, dude.
Yeah,
like they, oh look, it's my reek, and they're all giving him looks like, that ain't the same guy. Didn't he die?
You're right. It's like, okay. They don't want to outright be like, but no, it's not. But
like
one of
Ramsay,
them's like,
Ramsay, you're naked. And he's like, look, I have these wonderful new robes. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's just harrowing to hear just how much he's aged visually over that time as well. Just trying to, you can't imagine. You wouldn't even begin to imagine anything that poor fellow had gone through anyway.
Yeah, this is one thing, and this is, no spoilers for the show or anything, but this is one thing where I'll say the show probably fell short. I mean, how do you really depict that with a human being using the same human being? My visual image of it is like, I was like, oh, it's on the show. I was like, yeah, Theon doesn't look that bad, you know.
Yeah, and I guess on the show you cannot quite you're not in his head, so you don't get how tortured he was and how crazy he is now. I mean, it's just this whole thing that we see him go through, like, how long have I been in here, and who are these boys? Are they still the same? That's something that's hard to get on a show, I guess.
Well, I would say that Alfie Allen did a great job, even acting and having to act against that kind of script, but.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did the best they could, but this is where obviously the limitations of the visual medium come into play.
Yeah, they'd have to cast a different man, like a 100-year-old man, according to Nihon's.
You gotta find like someone that looks very much like him, but real shrunken down and wrinkled up and white hair. I mean, I've seen some, like DeviantArt and stuff. It's like, Reek and like, oh man, like it's some of those are bad.
You're going by book description, yeah. But I mean, we don't know what they did with like Saving Private Ryan. They casted, I think Matt Damon's like, spoilers for Saving Private Ryan, but they casted like Matt Damon's.
They saved Private Ryan, just
grandfather, I believe. Yeah, right. I think they casted Matt Damon's grandfather or something for that, for that graveyard scene. But,
that does sound familiar, actually.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, but anyway.
About the Lords, did you I just looked on Tower of the Hand and realized that these were Karstark and Umber, but I don't think I knew just by their descriptions. Did you?
Probably not.
No, not when I read it the first time. That's
right,
because
we've never heard their descriptions before.
Well, yeah, but I kind of feel like in the way it's written, you know that they're supposed to be people that you know who they are, or otherwise why describe them without saying the names if you're not supposed to? I mean, it feels like a mystery. Like he describes them, but we don't know who they are. It's the same thing.
Like Reek is a mystery, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because we don't really know. We don't know it's Theon here. We're not supposed to know it's Theon.
Right, until the end of the chapter, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the chapter.
It presents a mystery for like upcoming chapters when we find out like who they are. I mean, we at least know they're Northmen by the descriptions. So.
Yeah, I mean, Ramsay, you get that hint from Ramsay that what is the Ironborn would say, "What is dead may never die," when in regards to saying like Reek was dead, and then like, oh, I don't think this is the same guy, but yeah. And I think we did get a description of Karstark's from a Bran chapter, if not directly. At least we know that they didn't look like Starks. I think that's the line. But that says that's not very descriptive. But
right, yeah. There's no way we would be able to pick out Arnoff before we're told who the hell he is.
But speaking of reports of demises being greatly exaggerated. Did anyone know? I mean, I guess that there were reports that that Ramsay had been killed, right? But was it? I think after Winterfell is taken and pretty much everyone's killed, it's just kind of like confused rumors. Like no one really. Did people actually think Ramsay was dead outside of Winterfell, or what?
I don't think so. It was just that initial confusion, like when the original Reek got killed. But that, there was just that initial confusion.
Right, but Reek was at Winterfell, or Ramsay was at Winterfell as Reek for a while before Theon takes over. Did they send a letter? I'm trying to remember.
Well, yeah. So there was rumors of Ramsay's death in Clash,
right?
Before kind of the reveal at the end of Clash, whether or not you picked up on that or not, but then in Storm or whatnot, you get reports of the Bastard of Bolton. Like doing stuff in the north. I think Robb and Catelyn receive reports. And I'm pretty sure Bruce mentions, Ramsay in the middle of Storm, so we know well enough that he's alive.
Oh yeah, before the Red Wedding, he says something.
Yeah.
Who's the woman that Ramsay wed and then locked in the tower? Lady
Hornwood, yeah.
Lady Hornwood,
yeah, that's right.
She gets
That's right.
mentioned
I think
at the beginning of the chapter. Yeah, I actually don't know if we knew she was dead yet until this chapter.
I believe that we knew that there had been a marriage, and that was to Ramsay, but I'm not sure. I get to say it now, right? We have shocking lack of knowledge. So
Right.
Well, but that's why Sir Roderick rode out, right? Was because he had taken Lady Hornwood.
Right.
And that's when
Yeah,
they
I
end up
think
killing
we
the
knew.
original Reek and everything.
She knew
So-
she was captured. Yeah, we knew that much.
Yeah, but they didn't bring Lady Hornwood back or anything, right? Like she'd already died.
Mm,
Yeah,
I think we'd heard rumors.
I guess I could look it up.
All right. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on the Tower of the Hand page for Lady Hornwood, and Ramsay married her, forced her to sign a document declaring him heir to the Hornwood lands, and left her in a dungeon to starve to death, and that's referenced in Clash 36.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
I guess
So
we
yeah,
know.
it was. Yeah.
That's
it was
a brand chapter, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
at least implied.
Hmm.
well, there we go. I think we can all agree that eating rats, live ones or otherwise, is a terrible idea, and don't do that. They're very stringy.
They carry the plague.
Yeah, the descriptions of the
Terrible.
hair was, and he was like trying to scarf it down before the jailers came in. It's just, oh my god, this guy.
Yeah,
Just
I
I
mean,
want to.
I'm really disappointed at George because he's usually so good at describing food. I wasn't appetized at all.
But yeah, he holds back in general, like on the description of food. Like he barely talks about it. Like when Theon enters the feast too.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if that was an intentional kind of like he's not thinking about that right now. He has bigger concerns.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we don't need to know about the capons.
So he gets into it in the John chapter a bit. So.
So, before this chapter, did you think you would be seeing Theon again, or? So I don't think I was.
Oh, it was known. Like it was known before Dance was released that Theon was going to be a POV chapter.
Well, in the right
Not-
circles.
Not to some of us. Because some of us were lucky enough to, if you caught on right around when the show came out,
Right.
like the Dance was like, oh, and there's the new book for this show, and you're like, oh, this is great. The books are tearing out. They're gonna finish these books soon. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that was 20 years ago.
You end up looking like Theon by the time the books are done.
It's like, I looked down at my hand and I was like, have I read this book already?
Sad. Okay, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I'm good.
We also get the reintroduction of the Frey boys as well, which we can honestly do without, to be honest.
Oh, see, I actually like. I mean, it's just like another one of those examples of kind of minor characters, like where I like how minor characters keep showing up here and there, and
Right. It gives you gives you kind of an anchor point. So
Yeah.
you're like, oh, there's something familiar. They were in this other story, but as characters, they suck. They're the worst.
Yeah,
I mean, they're children.
right,
But,
yeah, but like
they're
I mean,
little shits.
Yeah, they're a fun
interesting
thing
in
to
the story, but
follow.
yeah, they're just horrible people.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be
All right.
fun
Let's
to
see.
discuss how that one died.
Oh, the only other note that Mina had was that she also felt bad that Theon had romantic delusions. Sort of like Sansa, that he thought like maybe he would have been married off to Arya someday. Yada yada yada.
Right, but
Oh.
the key with that is that the key part of that line is that Ned would accept him as his son, like he would get another father figure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like that's something that
It wasn't like him being like into Arya or anything. It was more like
yeah.
him
I think
thinking
it was Sansa.
maybe he'd be
no?
It's
accepted.
Sansa. He's
It's Sansa
yeah.
in the chapter. I think that's been that's
Oh, maybe
a
she
mistake.
mistyped, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very sad reading it because you're like, oh, they were probably, they're of an age more or less, right? And she's
They're like
just a
3 years
few years.
apart, I think. Sansa.
Yeah, I mean, it's not outside of the realm of possibility. I don't think that
Well, it's
Especially in this
better
world.
Ned
than
at any point was considering that, though. To be
it's
honest,
better
I don't
than
think Ned
than-
ever
than
considered it.
Littlefinger.
He's like, oh yeah, that one time when Lord Stark came to me and said, you and Sansa would make a great join our two houses. Yeah. Like Theon, you're an unreliable narrator. Fuck you. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because you actually still get kind of a little bit of the old Theon in this when he's considering Sansa, and he also in the story with Kira, like he still kind of blames Kira for him getting captured that day as well.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of the old like.
And that was kind of early on, that whole incident that he's remembering. He still had the fire in him.
You saved us, he says.
Yeah.
And then he gets embittered by her, and she's like, "You need to go a different directions because these dogs are gonna get us."
Yeah.
And then he starts blaming her for it. I'm like, "Oh, dude, she got torn apart by dogs, so you can't really blame her."
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta find a better place to hide.
I do have a question. One last question, at least, about this chapter. He says that it was a trick that when Kyra was released with him. Was that really a trick? Like, or is it just one of those things that the captor would say, like, it was all a trick, and he's like, well, I'm gonna post guards on that gate now.
No,
I think it could be that, like, you're right, like, oh, this was just us, covering up after the fact so that to keep our prisoner in fear of us, I guess. But I really think Ramsay is known for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he would definitely let him go, give him a couple hours head start. It's good sport. There's so much. It's cold outside. Winter hasn't come yet, but it's cold. They have no provisions. The guy's already injured. They're not getting anywhere. Like, it's not even fair.
No. Plus, he has hounds to track him.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Just to get back to the Frey boys, I also believe that they're in this chapter because they're important for Theon's journey, and also because they're a hint that this is Theon because he knows them, and we don't know that many characters who have had interactions with these boys, so that's also the reason why they're here.
If you had thought about it, when you're reading this, if you were, you just read Clash or something, you're like, well, the real Reek died before he never actually came to Winterfell, so he would have never met them.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you're reading it, you're not really thinking about that in the middle of the chapter usually. Sometimes we're good like that, but I know I'm usually not. I'm not usually.
I was with Dance, but not with the rest of the series.
Yeah, I feel like with Winds, I'm just gonna be sitting. It's gonna take me 3 hours to go through each chapter. No, it won't be that bad. All right, let's move on ahead here. These chapters are all pretty close together, actually, in the reading order. I think it's 3 chapters, and they're all 4 chapters in a sequence here.
Yeah, 9, 10, and 12.
They're grouped together. Yeah, so this one goes back to John 3, which is a couple chapters back. And let's see. Bina makes note that it only takes 2 weeks for news of Tywin's death to reach the wall. And Leigh, you have that?
Yes. All right. It's a pretty short chapter, only about 15 or so pages long, but there's still quite a bit in there. At Castle Black, they brought forth the king beyond the wall, with his hands bound in hempen rope and a noose around his neck. Stannis waves away Jon's protest, claiming Mance is of more use alive than dead. Whilst Mel is on another preaching rant, Mance begins to break and cries for mercy at the sight of his cage. Partially dragged and carried towards a cage made out of branches and saplings from the haunted forest, claiming the rebirth of Azor Ahai, Mel points towards Stannis, and the ruby at her throat begins to glow. She begins to burn the horn of Joramun, or as she proclaims, the horn of darkness. The horn bursts into swirling tongues of green and yellow flame, then pushed into the fire pit where Mance is being kept above. Clawing at the noose, he starts screaming and shrieking incoherently, denying his name and kingship, cursing the Red Woman as the flames begin to touch his legs, and he gives a little dance. Jon sees enough and orders his bowmen to shoot Mance with arrows instead, murmuring to himself, and now his watch has ended. Mel rabbits on again about Stannis, who draws a vivid light bringer, seemingly brighter than normal. And Mel also asks, for those that wish to live prosperously, follow Stannis, and the gates will be open towards them. The gates are open, and a plethora of wildlings make their way through the wall, each grabbing a piece of weirwood to throw into the fire, with 1 in 10 choosing to rather flee back to the haunted forest. Sigurd and Rattleshirt, Sigurd being the new Magna of Thenn, being the first to kneel to their new king, then other clan leaders, followed by the rest of the wildlings. Bowen Marsh and Alistair Thorne disagree with the decision to let them through, Marsh thinking they're better suited to guard the north of the wall. Jon also tries to reassure Marsh that he hasn't taken side with Stannis in the battle for the throne. Jon shares a cup of wine with Clydas in the rookery, telling him Aemon had shown him the Jade Compendium and read a passage about Lightbringer, citing, "It's intensely bright and hot," but Jon remarks that Stannis' sword doesn't produce any heat. And that's it.
Yeah, so this is kind of a short chapter, but there's a lot here. There's a lot here that's important later. Just so many questions. I mean, the Horn of Winter getting burned. Yeah. What is that horn? What was that horn? What does that matter? The first time I read this, the way he words it when Mance is being burned, it kind of it didn't really trip anything in my head, because he's saying, well, he's denying his kingship. It's like saying, like, to me, I was thinking, like, oh, he's being like, look, I'm not the king, just let me go, sort of thing. Like, I'll be good again. Not. He was probably up there screaming like, I'm not Mance Rayder, you assholes.
I thought it was. Yeah. I thought it was shitty writing. Like, I honestly thought it was inconsistent writing, just because he's done that every once in a while.
right.
And so I thought it was just George, like, just being, showing an uncharacteristic, like, side of Mance, but.
Well, there are two hints, right? The fact that he's shouting that he's not, and that goes against Mance's character. And then the second is that he wasn't burned in his cloak. I mean, we can't expect this the ruby or anything to mean anything from Rattleshirt, but those two things. It's like, well, but Jon is thinking now his watch has ended because he was a member of the Night's Watch. So.
I'm saying he's only got a thin tunic and just nothing else covering him in comparison to the red silken cloak that he has, and just yelling out about treachery and says denying his kingship, denying his people, denying his name, denying all that had ever been. So, exactly as you said, completely out of character for Mance.
Driven mad by the fire.
And just incredibly stoic, but yeah. Did anyone have any suspicions when they first read of Mance being, that being Mance or not?
No.
I had absolutely no clue at all. So
I felt like something was weird, but it just felt something off. But I would not have ever thought something like that. I just wondered what was really going on, but I had no idea. Right. That was we haven't seen anything like that before.
There's not enough here to really point in that direction or make you think that that's not him, really. And I mean, certainly you wouldn't think it's Rattleshirt because Rattleshirt's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or at least, that's what it tells us.
And we haven't seen that type of magic before. We didn't know that was possible.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like something Stannis would be comfortable doing. Like letting Mance go.
Compromising.
Yeah. Well, we still don't know if he has, right? If Stannis is aware of that.
Huh.
Oh, of Mance?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. He's not. Or is he? I don't
know.
I think so.
Okay. Honestly,
they did this really behind his back.
So just Mel actually did this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like this is, she
She
doesn't she say later
decided
like she
to-
saw in the fire or something that he was needed?
Mm.
I think there's a little bit more to that in personally, because when I've read the Mel chapter, this really just completely threw me off, and I'm just trying to think, was it at this point or a little bit before that Mel really had some ulterior motive, not necessarily to like backstab Stannis or anything like that, but was she already starting to really doubt her own thoughts and predictions at that stage? Because that's a hell of a well, not plan B, but even
It's
for
a
lack of better
stretch.
word, some sort of treachery towards Stannis. But it's
Yeah, but
just
it's not.
curious to think as a.
I mean, because
What?
if Stannis knows, he just doesn't let this happen. I mean, he's too rigid. I think when it comes to something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good point.
I assumed that like this was something that he knew and decided actually, and I couldn't. That's one of the reasons why I couldn't imagine that this wasn't Mance Rayder, because it would have been too much out of character for Stannis. But I didn't ever think that Mel would have done this on her own.
And Stannis does compromise quite a bit. Like, with Renly's terms, they were pretty good terms, and Storm's End and everything.
Yeah, there have been a decent amount of articles written about this. Like Stannis actually is a much more compromising character than we give him credit for.
Well, in some ways, like when it comes to like the death of his brother and stuff, though, it's like he does things, then he pretend he doesn't do them. So, I mean, in that sense, you could say that like it's possible that Melisandre ran this by him, and he was like, well, as long as I'm, plausible deniability or something, then it's like a loophole. And maybe he like knows but doesn't know or something. That would be the most I would expect, because he likes to ignore things that are inconvenient, I think.
Yeah.
Except his kingship.
Outright. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, inconvenient for his his rights and his goals and all that. But I don't think outright he could accept something like this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Stannis's name rhymes with abstinence, right? He doesn't like whores, or it doesn't seem really anything frivolous, and so if but it is hard to see. I mean, in my chapter, I read that a scroll was stamped with 3 seals. One of which is representative of the mage or a magician from Ashai or what have you. Is the Melisandre's mark is on the scroll. So it seems like she's a power unto herself, but is just allied with Stannis. So maybe she does carry enough clout to kind of make that call. But I mean, she wasn't the one who captured Stannis, so it was really Mance. So it was really Stannis's choice, and this is a little bit of subterfuge on her part. Just same as.
I mean, she steers him around for sure, but I don't know. Like she'll steer him away from the 7. Okay, whatever, Red God. Like he doesn't care that much, right? Like stuff that is not like his main conviction. I think she can move him more. And I mean, we see that even killing his own brother, but even that was.
I just imagine she's really good at whispering in his ear as well.
Yeah, well, while she's doing other things.
I'm curious as Blood Raven.
Blood Raven. I've been curious as to what the kind of goal of the burn was. I'm thinking back to that parable, or that Varys gave to Tyrion in Clash, and he was saying like, where does power reside? Where men believe it resides. So maybe she was just kind of experimenting with that idea, being that if I burn someone who looks, and for all the wildlings and people watching, is Mance, does that burn or does that death still carry the same weight magically or otherwise?
Well, symbolically they had to, right? Because they're talking about how the Red God is the shit, and like this is what they're pushing on everyone. So they have to be like, look at the power of the flames, and then look how bright Lightbringer is, which she could just, she just does that. But I don't know, like it doesn't state that there's like, well, like we're burning someone to have good weather, or anything on the way to when they were sailing up and shit, right? Like it doesn't state that there was any sort of intent with this. So I don't know if it's just like, well, some good luck, on whatever.
Yeah. Well, and they all are throwing little twigs of from the shadow forest or haunted forest into the fire too. This is all a big symbolic, pool or mess.
Right. It's a show of surrender. It's kind of
yeah.
But yeah, there is another line in there where John thinks about is this the power of King's blood, which is kind of one of those repetitive themes that we keep fucking getting in these books, but doesn't seem to actually do anything. And I'm actually curious if somehow I'm actually curious if this is actually going to matter in the future. This whole because he keeps hyping up the power of King's
But I mean,
blood,
it matters enough to people. Like John sends the baby away. Yeah.
Right, but
and that's just it. It comes to where men believe it resides in King's blood. They just think that it does, so it does. It's just like it's almost a magic trick in and of itself. Where everyone is saying that it means something, therefore it means something because everyone thinks it does.
Until they make a King's blood sacrifice, and they're like, "I called out a tornado," and there's a tornado. They're sort of like, well, because like I said, when they burned the
sorry, that'd be great though.
when they burned the men, when they were sailing north and stuff, it was just like for good weather and wind and shit, and you might have just gotten that anyway, So,
but he's also making the argument that perhaps enough men's belief can also make the magic stronger, which is a common theme you see in other fantasy novels. So that'd be interesting.
Perception is reality at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Jock, what about you? What do you think about the horn, man? Where's that horn going?
Oh, we may have
lost him.
He may be AFK.
I believe he says he has puppies to contend with today too.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Puppies.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think we'll begrudge him some puppies. I mean, if that's
cute, cuddly puppies. Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Well, just keep him away from Melisandre. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I hear their father was a king hound.
Oh yes, let's all believe that, and let's see what happens. Like tornado, go. Get a little dust devil. Maybe not.
I'm telling you, I mean, if here's the thing is that it's easy to, well, it's not easy, but when you do something like this and it works out and people, oh man, the Red Woman's got this power, and you get people on your side. But anyone who has real power and you see these books, it's really easy to get them into their cause. Danny, flashes the dragons around, and it's like, oh shit, Barrack just keeps coming back from the dead, and he's got a bunch of people that are like, yeah, okay, we're gonna hang out with this guy. So, when you can actually do something crazy and magical, like people get into it. When it's just parlor tricks and you've got some fucking wildfire, you're like, it's magic. Yeah, fuck you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
So is this comment that people make all the time, right? The cold preserves and what fire consumes and the cold preserves. So just kind of curious as to what that also means when we're looking at what the two principal actors in Song of Ice and Fire are, the ice and the fire. Well, we have looking like really old powers in the form of ice, and really powerful actors in the form of fire in the dragons. However, we know that fire, or the fire element, it would burn out. Like a scorpion could hit the dragon in the eye and be done with it, or what happened with Rhaenyra. Or
they get indigestion or something,
Yeah, you don't give them. I wonder what happens if a dragon were to eat another. Be great.
What would happen? I mean, do dragons have to eat certain things to make sure they keep that fire going good? I don't know how it works, man.
I don't
Where's
either,
that science, George? Where's the science?
We need double-blind studies. Also, the horn that's being burned. Obviously, we don't believe that was the real. If there is one, that's not the real horn of winter, right?
It seems like it could be some sort of magical horn. I don't know if it's something that Melisandre worked up, or if it's just something else entirely. Who knows? But yeah, I don't think that. I mean, we've had this discussion before that we don't think that's like the real Horn of Winter, if there is one, and if it's not like a more symbolic Horn of Winter. I don't know.
Yeah. But it would be really weird. Mance had in his tent.
Yeah.
This is the same horn that Mance had in his tent when Jon went north to treat with wildlings. So
and he was threatening to blow. And he was like, we're trying to be nice here, man. I'm not trying to blow this horn, bro. What does it do? It just take down the whole wall. Trust me. Well, if you say so, but as far as I know, that's just a fancy horn.
Yeah, it's another thing. Like the horns are another thing that have just been real hyped up, but we have yet to see one actually do anything yet.
Oh, I'm hyped about the horns, man. I've seen that horn kill a man.
Well, it says it is supposed to wake giants from the hills, or wake the sleepers. It says.
Maybe it's the horn that wakes the realms of men. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
Wake up! Welcome to Waterworld. The wall melted and everything is flooded.
Calls forth the
veil is now beachfront. Yeah, the Eyrie is now beachfront property.
Tropical. Yeah, that would be nice. All right. So yeah, I think we're pretty good on this.
We do get like one. Just quickly, we do get one a couple of times in the chapter. Jon remarking about Val and just how stoic and whatnot she is. Does anyone have any opinions on her?
I hope, I hope that she has an impact on the story.
She's like a very strong character.
Right. Yeah.
I like her. I mean, I hope things turn out well for her. I wish nothing but good things on her and that baby.
I kind of, I mean, if this was another book, I would kind of expect something romantic between her and Jon, because he doesn't feel anything for her at the moment, but he respects her, and there are mentions again and again of how he could have actually had her. I don't want to say that because you don't. Because that's a woman, but
I think he just means like he could have, like that could have been an arrangement. He could be with her, but he, I don't know if it's more of like him, like longing after her in those moments, and like
I don't think
or if it's more of him wanting to shirk his responsibility, like maybe I could have thrown off this whole thing.
He is longing after her. Really, he's more longing after Winterfell, I would expect. But it came to my mind reading this chapter that the way he thinks about Val is like not love at the moment, but could be, and I don't know, just if this was another book and something like that would be plausible,
Definitely. I actually have something on this. Reminding me, it's The Seasons of My Love. It's a Mirror song. That song, I believe, later in Dance. I think Tyrion knows it, but I've heard this somewhere else, mentioned somewhere else, and I apologize, I don't remember where. But it says, I loved a maid as fair as summer with sunlight in her hair. I loved a maid as red as autumn. I loved a maid as red as autumn with sunset in her hair. I loved a maid as white as winter with moon glow in her hair. Those are the lyrics for that song that were mentioned, I think, in a Tyrion chapter. But it seems to, just like Sansa's in the Duncan Egg, if you've ever heard that theory, the betrothed of Sansa kind of follow the same pattern, where I think it's a Lannister, or rather a Baratheon, whoever the Harry the Heir is, that same, and then also a Targaryen, and so that kind of these lyrics might also foreshadow like Jon's love progression, and it's out of order, just the same way, where we've got the autumn or for red in the hair for Ygritte, possibly this Val for the sunset or summer because she's blonde, and then we've also got white. Just I don't know what female character has white hair, but There might be one.
It's Danny with silver.
Danny?
If you're gonna add it to that.
But no, I was thinking.
No.
Aegon. It was Aegon.
Someone with white hair. I mean, like, old Nan or somebody. Like.
Yeah, it could be. Hey.
Yeah.
But
the woman at Old Stones.
Right.
It's just one of the really old spear wives.
And then you hear again for the umpteenth time in the chapter, just a couple of excerpts from Dornishman's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's Mance's song, right? He was singing it.
Yeah, it's the motto.
But I
of
don't know.
his life.
I don't think anything's gonna happen with him and Val. I mean, I don't know.
No.
I never really gave that a lot of thought, as much as
No, me
it is
neither.
brought
I
up a
was
little. So.
Yeah.
But if this was a different series that was more focused on Jon's story as kind of like the classical fantasy hero, he would already have been with Val and like 5 other people at the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Right, yeah, I just hope she plays kind of a bigger role kind of in the whole fight at the end.
I just hope she doesn't die. I mean, is that am I not being ambitious enough?
No,
I think that's
pretty ambitious.
Fairly ambitious.
I'm like, just send her south with that baby. I mean, come on, man.
I don't know. I think I can see a possibility where maybe if Jon were resurrected, he could have just an interest with Val. It continues. Be very odd though. I feel like he's got bigger things to worry about if he ever comes back from the dead in the books, because he's just having really tough time at the wall, and it doesn't feel like he's got time for a relationship with Val, but who knows?
Val's the kind of girl you save for the epilogue, and then he raises that baby as his own.
Oh no, my God. Jesus.
Again, in a different series. Okay. Let's
Although if he does get resurrected, honestly, like he hasn't got too many friends around, and she seems like the likely type to be a friend. She's fierce and stoic, and
Ed will still be around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I always forget who's left. He has a lot of friends. They're just not there.
Well, he sends them away in this chapter.
Yeah. So if he gets resurrected and they get rid of the traitors and shit, and he's like, oh man, maybe I should bring my boys back. Because and in this chapter actually you get a little bit of the seeds of his own destruction here when they go to.
He lays that foreshadowing on thick at the end of the chapter.
Well, but I'm talking about when they go to eat, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we can't. Yeah, I can't sit with you guys. Lord Stark always told me that you can't be friends with your men. Yet, but you're also like 17, right? So I mean, he does need to still be cultivating those relationships. I mean, forget the lesson that Ned always had one of his men at table with them every night, right? Like he rotated them through and kept that up. It wasn't like it's like, well, we can't. I have to be higher than you. I have to. I think he's a little insecure in his position. So that's kind of he doesn't really understand how it works.
Hopefully this is like some sort of dialectic where he can then see what he tried this time for this first time, what definitely did not work, and maybe how to work better in the future if he does come back. This obviously was untenable, and the people thought that as well. Who he was. It doesn't help that the people who he was lording over are these terrible individuals, but they were given a second chance at the wall. And I would like to think that this might have happened anyway. His ultimate fate in a dance might have happened anyway with any a group of Night's Watchmen throughout the histories.
Part of it is that he expects these people to respect him, the position of the Lord Commander, like he does, right? I mean, he knows some of them don't, but he expects kind of the general Night's Watch to fall in line, even though they just had a mutiny and, I don't know. Never mind the fact,
not my Lord Commander.
Yeah, never mind the fact that a lot of these are peasants or, they're criminals or whatever. And then he even goes beyond that, though, to do some things that, at least from the outside, and, some definitely aren't the best moves, but they look like you're betraying the Watch. And I mean, they say here, like, hey, you're getting too close to Stannis, and then he gets too close to the wildlings. And he sort of ignores the people he needs the most support from, really.
and then sends Holder, Toad, Bren, and Pip away as well, which only exacerbates the situation too.
Yeah.
And I think we'd all be in agreement that he will be resurrected, unless someone doesn't. But
I think that's the theory we've had since Dance came out. I mean, we're like, well, that's not the end for him, but we still don't really know in what way, in what form that will take. You know,
character if he came back, to be honest, because as we've seen with Beric, just how every time he gets brought back, that he keeps losing a piece of himself. And I think that with John and in the situation that he is in particularly, I think he's going to be will be a genuinely more fascinating character to follow because of it as well. And I think he will take even less shit, to be honest. I
really hope that he doesn't get resurrected with the whole Lord of Light, method. I hope it would be something else. But, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But I do. I mean, I don't know. I support the zombie Jon Snow theory, as you can see by my Skype avatar here. So,
But I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't think no matter how he gets resurrected that he's gonna suddenly convert to the Lord of Light.
No.
So I don't think it particularly matters.
Well, let's look at the people we. I mean, looking at the people who have been resurrected through fire magic, it would be Beric and Cat, right? And Cat kind of purposely, if you know what I mean, because she wasn't directly from the Lord of Light. It was kind of like a pass, like a baton pass from Beric.
And it was a little bit too long to probably do that effectively.
Yeah. So, but looking at that, I'm just thinking about it though. I mean, what are the characteristics of someone that was brought back by fire? It tends to
memory
be
loss,
they're stuck on some mission or one feeling or something. And they're it almost seems they're attached.
It's
to
hollow. Yeah. I don't. That's why I mean, like I'm saying, if he gets resurrected, I'd hope it'd be something different, so we could see something different, or so that we wouldn't. So we're like, oh, we know where this is going. I'd like it to be.
I heard that maybe.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, maybe he wouldn't be a point of view character. I've heard that theory thrown around. That after he's kind of lost that's the part of himself that he lost. Yeah.
So we wouldn't get into his head anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's a thought. What if we don't know what's going on at the wall until, say, Sam goes up there and he's like, "Holy shit, what's this?" He's like, "That's John." It's like, oh.
And he's like, brains.
That would actually be interesting, honestly.
Yeah.
We'll get
Lord Commander Snow needs brains every day.
Although, we do have another point of view right there in Melisandre. So
we'll get a few Mel chapters until he's brought back, and then we'll see after that.
Yeah.
I think because I don't think he wants to make too many Mel chapters. So if he doesn't make John a POV, then I think he'll need another POV to go up to the wall to kind of take over that spot.
Why doesn't he just release what he has now and give us the rest later?
What? No. It's a terrible idea.
No, well, just send it to me and I'll review it.
Climax.
Just let me review it. It's okay.
I think we've had recently as well, just news come out of George. Obviously, that Wins isn't going to come up this year, but his editors saying that he wants him to split Wins into 2 parts as well. And please don't do that. Please.
No.
I haven't heard that.
He said he doesn't. Yeah, he says he doesn't want to, though. I was reading the comments of that post. The not a blog post.
Against it.
He's resistant to
that. So I mean,
which
that
is
would
good
be,
in my opinion.
That would make sense. If it's quite long, obviously they can sell 2 books, which is what they would want to do,
right?
Money wise. But at the same time, if they're like, look, you've got 3/4 of this ready, just let's find a good place in the first half and cut it off. I mean, that is exactly the kind of idea that they would come up with, So
I think the most disappointing thing out of that whole blog post, well, not disappointing, but that didn't feel the greatest, is that he admitted that he hasn't really got anything of Dream of Spring at all. So,
oh no,
oh really?
Yeah,
Why would he?
Everyone thinks that he's got this end part done. Kind of, he's figured out how the story ends, and I think he's even said that. But if we say about being Gardner is true, I imagine that where he expects this will end up and where it actually takes him, because it seems almost like being led by his pen, or in this case, his word star. DOS computer. Yeah. So
Guardians are notoriously bad at
That's still been my theory, is that he lost all of the work at one point from that stupid old piece of shit. He had to start over, and that's why it's taking so long.
Right now we have to deal with planned obsolescence. Back then, maybe they built them to last. Who knows? These computers.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder how much it cost him to get that thing fixed nowadays, huh?
Oh, no idea.
Yeah, but either way, I'm still confident that at some point we will get wins. Beyond that, I don't really know, unfortunately. Yeah, exactly. But I would have expected he'd maybe have some stuff that he thinks would be like, this is dream material, maybe. But you never know. I feel like by the time he ends up at the end of each book, he has some extra carryover stuff. But while you're in the middle of it, maybe not. So
yeah, we'll see. I think we'll at least get wins, but beyond that,
yeah. Back to the chapter. When the horn blows up, it blows up with different colored flames. These are
green
we
and
learn.
yellow,
These are the flames that Melisandre later says. I think she's running low on these powders that can make flames turn colors. It's like, because you used them all on the horn. So
to make it look magical. Yeah. That's probably.
I kept trying to read the text, trying to see if there was anything symbolic about the actual colors, but I couldn't really come up with anything.
Green and gold are the Baratheon colors. It's foreshadowing. Green and gold are the Baratheon colors, aren't they? The crowned stag.
Green and gold.
Green and gold.
No, it's more.
Aren't those the flames?
It's more black and gold.
It's black and gold.
Green and gold.
Got it, bro.
Black and yellow. Black and yellow. So who's Someone's green and gold though, but I don't remember who.
Well, there's green and gold is Tyrell's, I think.
Yeah, Highgarden is kind of a gold.
The color of the missing dragon egg too, but that's a whole other thing.
Oh wow.
The missing dragon eggs?
Well, it's eggs, dragon eggs.
They're egg. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about.
Interesting.
Talking about old crazy Euron just throwing eggs into the sea and shit.
Yeah. Somehow I don't buy that, but that's another story.
I had 50 dragon eggs, bro, and I was like, I don't even need it.
Well, I think
he's really been to a shy. He might.
Right. Yeah. The good theory on that is that he would use it to pay the faceless men for killing Balon if he had one. But
that's right. They have
got some rocks and he carved them.
How would they know?
Got some paint and shit. Hey man, this is genuine. It's real genuine. Don't worry about it.
Euron would be the character to try and pass that. It's real.
And everyone's too afraid of him to say otherwise.
Yeah.
Do you think it could be possible that all magic in this sort of universe is just belief by people in general, and Euron's only good at magic because he's a good con artist?
Oh, you mean there is actual magic, but it's belief based, or you mean there's not any real magic because people be coming back from the dead? So
no, I don't.
Just it's all belief based.
No, I don't quite agree with that.
You're Lord Beric had a lance through his. It was in his armpit. He was faking it. It's cool.
I wonder though. It's kind of like we get a piece of what the powers could be or what magic could be from each of the religions. For instance, we have just the outright belief that we get that gives people strength, like Davos from the Seven. That's just it seems to be totally belief based. Okay, and we don't have really anything else. And we don't get really any belief based really from the Red God. We get people chanting and stuff, but it doesn't seem like it engenders the same kind of reactions from people that say that the Seven did, but we do get actual power. Like we see, eagles burning, if that's what that was, and we see people coming back from the dead. This is crazy stuff that's actually happening. Possibly winds being blown, and then from the old gods' perspective, we actually see what kind of the quote unquote gods of that religion see from, but we don't see a whole lot. I mean, we see personal connection, I suppose, with Jon and Robb and Bran and these characters who actually and Jon and rather Sam. But it's kind of interesting that all of these religions are seen from one lens, looking in one direction and into another, without too much terrible overlap in terms of like what they actually do. We see, that's what I was getting at.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's that
Yeah, I don't
world
know.
building that he's so good at, to make things distinct.
And also, I think it's a distinct possibility that one of the possible endings of this is magic being destroyed utterly and just taken from the world.
If this is an answer to Tolkien, maybe
Just when the
maybe
comet
magic
brought
takes
it back,
over.
though. I mean, come on.
Right, but in order to fix the seasons, they might have to just take the whole thing down.
What's wrong
Maybe
with
the
the
comets-
seasons?
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess.
Just because
I think
you're
the-
used to them always being the same doesn't mean that's correct. Okay? Some people like 10 years of winter and like a day of autumn.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be you get winter and summer. Like spring and autumn are like they're never like a full year even, right? They're very quick
No,
from what it seems like.
they're there to label the transition periods.
Yeah.
I like that theory that there were two moons in the sky, a fire moon and an ice moon, and a blue comet might have come by, blowing up the fire moon. We had that red comet coming by. Hint, hint. Maybe it's gonna blow up the red moon, and then you get your balance.
Well, we
Or
all
the
know
ice
that
moon.
we all know that the dragons came out of that.
Came out of the
moon.
moon.
Straight
So
the dragons.
what would come out of the moon currently? Ice dragons or perhaps something else?
Well, I'm thinking like if there's an ice moon in the sky, maybe that's why the winters are so long and hideous. So maybe that I don't know what we'd get if question. If we got dragons coming.
I think there's
from the
like
ice-
3 black holes nearby, and it makes things all wonky. It's like, yeah,
the maw.
I don't even know if that adds up. I don't even know.
It's the Kessel Run.
Like, where's Stephen Hawking when you need him? Yeah,
he's
too soon.
somewhere.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Okay, okay. Let's
So, yeah,
before we spend like an hour on like theory cast again. Let's move forward to our Davos chapter here.
right. Let me just do
for,
one. Yeah, let me do one thing, Adam.
Okay. What do you
Just
got? What do you
because, small note, another one, cool side character is Ulmer of the Kingswood Brotherhood. He gets another shout out here. And because it's me, I have to bring up the Stannis and the Night King thing, where he mentions that he plans to put his family in the Night Fort when it's completed. Like, he's going to bring them up there, and that's where they're going to live. So, we'll see.
got? Nothing could possibly go wrong with that plan.
Nope, of course not.
Just a written note, Venus note as well, and they googled it about all the fakes and stuff.
Yeah, I mean this whole reread is I was going to do that at the end, but this whole reread is a lot of fake this, fake that. I mean, we got fake Arya and fake Reek and fake sword, fake Mance, fake horn, fake Lightbringer, fake rattle shirt, and Davos is fake dead from the previous book, and we find him in the next chapter. Figuring out what's going on there. So, yeah.
Transition.
This reread is fake as shit. So after John 3, we just go back one chapter, which is the same day. Let's see. This is the 24th of February. Lysa died on the 9th. So news travels pretty fast, but Davos is, he's kind of in trouble here. So
I've got the recap.
I believe Ty's got our recap on that.
Cool. So Davos 1, Dance with Dragons. Lightning crashes, finding our favorite half-handed Hand of the King captured and being brought to Breakwater, the keep on Sweet Sister. The Onion Knight is careful to observe his courtesies for Lord Godric Burrell. The Lord of Sweet Sister orders Davos's bound hands untied and asks Davos reasons for arriving at Sisterton. Davos thinks about Salador Stan, who abandoned Stannis' cause after nearly half his fleet was destroyed in the storm. He dropped Davos off at Sweet Sister before fleeing. Davos protects Lord Godric from this fact, instead revealing he is trying to make his way to White Harbor and speak with Manderleys. Lord Godric Burrell gives Davos guest right and tells him about the death of Tywin at Tyrion's hands and of the Imp's escape. He goes on to tell Davos that Cersei rules, not Kevin. It's interesting. The Manderleys of White Harbor have a marriage agreement with the phrase, dismaying Davos. All of this new information makes Davos desperate to contact Stannis, but the Lord will let no breakwater raven fly. Finally, we learn of Ned's visit to Sweet Sister at the very start of Robert's rebellion, when Jon Arryn got Ned to the fingers and on a fisherman's boat before the fisherman drowned. But Ned is still said to have planted Jon Snow in the belly of that fisherman's daughter's belly. During the time of the rebellion, Godric Burrell's father let Ned go with the understanding that if Robert were to lose, Ned was never there. Davos understands that Lord Burrell is hedging his bets now, as his father did then. The hand of King Stannis understands, and our smooth-talking smuggler did everything just right, earning him the right to live to see another day. Yeah, so there's a couple of stray observations I made on this chapter as well. We also see that there is Lord Burrell's daughters have the mark, which is his webbed hands, and I imagine they might have webbed feet as well. So, and there's been speculation in the fandom about squishers and what their impact on the Burrells will
Squishers and mermen.
Yeah. So and then also I was thinking that there's a Jon Snow, so obviously we're supposed to be still considering Jon's parentage. This is George tapping us on the shoulder and being like, "Hey, you guys paying attention? Like, what is it? Who's Jon's parents?" And then we've also got.
Ned he got Jon Snow like all over the damn Seven Kingdoms, man. Man, Jon Snow's in the east and he's in the south, and like you don't know where
people talk about Ned's kid, Ned's bastard more than they do about any other the royal bastards, like anything really. I think it might be because of the juxtaposition of what Ned is whom Ned was as a lord, and that the idea of what he had done even in war. So.
And the fact that he acknowledged him, but like it didn't acknowledge really the mother or the situation, and he's like wouldn't speak of it, but he took the kid into his household. Yeah. Whereas a lot of other bastards you wouldn't talk about because they're not part of the household.
Yeah, would you think they'd have handled it? They'd have handled it more like a Roose did with Ramsay, where they were like, "Oh yeah, he's my bastard, right. Sure, but you're gonna we'll give you some silver every year or something." But no. He's not gonna live with me. But
yeah, I mean that's how most lords seem to do it, unless they have need of them, I guess. Yeah,
which kind of brings up the question, like what need could Ramsay have been for Roose? But I guess that's that chapter.
Just to have like an able-bodied young dude, carry a sword and teach some shit. You have no heir. Right, so
yeah. So this was the traveling chapter where we end up. Davos is also hanging out in the belly of the whale, which is a biblical reference, I believe. It's I think Jonas was in the whale. I'm not
Jonah. Yeah, Jonah.
Jonah. There we go. It's been a while since my last.
Yeah, so only 2 of the Jonas brothers ever made it inside of a whale. Yeah, so they didn't put on a full concert.
Good. Good.
Yeah, that's the bumper, by the way.
Perfect.
Cheeky Adam making his own bumper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a relatively short chapter, right? But we do get to learn that Davos or Salador Saan also is another big info dump we get, that his 29 ships, half of them more or less have been destroyed in the storm. We also get, and the first thing that we learn in the chapter is that there's lightning and a storm is there, and he counts 6 heartbeats, I believe, between the lightning and the thunder, and later in the hall he counts 4. So the storm is fast approaching. So it's almost like it's a bit of a buildup. I wouldn't liken it too much to like the Red Wedding or something, but we do get this kind of impending what's going to happen and a release of ultimately Davos and the tension. Yeah. But we don't. Yeah. But
you said Salador out.
Salador's out. Who can blame him? He hasn't been paid.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. So, what did you guys ever feel Davos is really in danger here?
No,
not really.
Because if you read first, you're like, well, he's not even in White Harbor, right? So you're like, he gets through this, whatever, But we get this great story about Ned and Yeah, I mean, this is a nice little chapter. There's a couple interesting things in here. Like we get a place that we just don't really know anything about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like in contrast to Brienne's chapter, for instance, which are a lot of world building, but I'm not sure. Like it's debated in the fandom whether this was useful world building. I kind of like this one. Like we here in a place we haven't seen before, and we get a bit of its history, but it serves Davos's story quite well, and it lasts for a few pages, and then we're done, and we've learned something, and it's given the world more something more, but we don't dwell on it. So I found that quite well written.
You get enough to make some cool cosplay if you want to be a sister man, you know.
Yeah.
You know. So they're kind of shady, and one of my favorite
totally
things about
shady.
this
I was thinking.
Is
go ahead.
How old the memories are. So like they're like, you know, the North and the Vale fought between the two of them, and you know they're like, it's been hundreds and hundreds of years, and even at one point he says like about the Manderleys that well, I mean they're not really true Northmen. They only came north like 900 years ago. Like holy crap, man! Like hashtag they're still taking your jobs, I guess. Like geez.
There's a lot of gatekeeping in this.
It's been 900 years, bro. Yeah.
No, they're not real North. Like, oh. Well.
Yeah, they mentioned like the rape of the three sisters, which you know they say that was 2,000 years ago. But granted, there's been stuff that happens in between, like you know the two Blackfire rebellions. Where...
I mean, 2,000 years ago, how do I relate to anyone 2,000 years ago?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
My great you killed him, but you know since then like maybe like the blood's all mixed, and I'm related to the person that killed them too. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah. It's just it's crazy to even think, but I guess they got they don't have any books, they don't have TV, they don't have a lot going on this island other than being shady. So holding a grudge, I guess you could do that for 2,000 years.
Yeah, it's just it seems like this is what the Ironborn would be if they had to contend with who is it the Vale and the North as adversaries like constantly. It's like, well, you can't do that Ironborn stuff, so you're just gonna have to sit on this island and play games with lights and essentially like have people boat wreck in order to get your saffron and salt or whatever or pepper.
Saffron, man, it's worth more than gold.
That's what he says. So there's good money in smuggling. I wonder what happened if Davos had just gone to Storm's End with saffron, and they're like, "Great, this is what we can pepper our shoes with these."
Get what's left of your family, I say right now, and get out, man. But Davos won't do that. But
Yeah. Davos has a line where he's thinking about his kids, and he's like, 4 of them are burned and dead. It's like, whoa.
That's the main thing is he sacrificed so much for this cause, which I think is kind of a shitty cause in the end. Won't really come to much. And so I hope that whatever happens, he gets some sort of payout. He somehow, is critical to what's going on. I mean, him being sent off to get Rickon might be just kind of a fuck off, and nothing comes to that. I don't know.
No, I think his cause will be transferred to the war against the others. Like I think.
I hope.
Yeah, and that would be thematically fitting for him too, because he doesn't. Even though he was the one who advocated going to the wall, he did so because of the wild things were coming. He was never really into this big other kind of deal with Melisandre. It didn't seem like he really had committed to that.
And he had it was even not knowing about the others and all that. And if he had, obviously, if everyone knew what was really going on, that should take priority. But I mean, that's a bold move, and to get Stannis to do that, and he was absolutely right. It's like if you could show the realm that you're doing kingly things, like start up there, take care of the wildlings, just kind of go around and fight. Oh, now the Iron Men are leaving. Go put that down. Like, and if you do that for a couple of years or something, it might take a while, but eventually the people are gonna be like, well, why are we following the Lannisters? It just I don't think it's going to work out that way.
That plan might have worked, if we didn't have an Aegon Deus Ex Machina coming.
Or if Winter wasn't here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so much here, and I guess they were saying the it's actually technically autumn, but the storms are so terrible. And he was saying that to linking back to the Mel chapter, or I'm sorry, the John chapter with Melisandre burning everything. There's some contention that the reason that they had such good winds going up was because they burned that Florent, that old hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is kind of the drawback. It's like the inhale after the exhale. So, where
actually,
I
wanted to speak about the storms, because that was actually one of the things that annoyed me during Dance, where, I mean, these storms affect a lot of our different characters. As you know, we have this with Salvador Sands' fleet. We had the Iron Fleet getting broken up. There's the issue when Cotter Pike tries to rescue the wildlings, and we also get kind of the snows up with Stannis, where I just got annoyed, where it seemed like there were a lot of kind of weather hazards, but they were only affecting like the characters we quote unquote cheer for. You know, it was disproportionate, where it seemed there'll be a lot.
Where's the blizzard in King's Landing?
Right, there'd be a lot of acts of God negatively affecting the protagonists and helping the antagonists. Where
we do get a blizzard in King's Landing, to be fair. I mean, but
yeah,
it takes a while.
And I guess Bolton in Winterfell is not too happy with the storm outside either.
Right, but they're still
Doesn't quite
huddled.
help.
They have food.
Well,
Sort of.
they don't have a lot of it.
Right.
About Winterfell, I guess going to that chapter and then going back to Theon in his chapter talking about taking Winterfell. I mean, all this proves that like Winterfell is it's a strong castle. It's a big castle, but it's really only its strength is from the surrounding area too, like being well provisioned and well stocked, and it doesn't really have a lot on its own. So people just can't march in without adequate numbers and provisions and just be like, well, this castle's going to keep us safe. Right. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, the whole concept is that the Northmen, take all their harvests and bring them to Winterfell, and then most of them live in Winterfell, during the winters.
They come to the winter town, and
and then go back out to their, smaller areas after winter's done.
Yeah. Can I come back to your question, Adam, that did we feel that Davos was in danger here? Well, I didn't, but the reason I thought this was an interesting way to write this is that we have this sort of contrast between the dampness and the darkness of of Sister Town. Like it's like a place none of us would want to go, I would expect. Like, it doesn't seem like a really nice place. It's cold, it's damp, it's dark, it's just not so nice, even in the Lord's Hall. But at the same time, even from early on in the chapter, we get hints that it's going to be okay. Like he eats the bread, he's talking with the guy. You have from the beginning the idea that
he says, hey, you never saw this guy.
That first thing.
Small reassurances.
With cold and dark and damp.
So you're saying it's like Northern Ireland?
Yeah, it was. Says the guy from you live up in Scotland, Jock?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's so bad, but except for these are small islands, and so like it's not like you can just go somewhere else, and it's hard to get things, and so like being like wet and cold's not so bad if you're, able to go to the next town over, or stuff comes through pretty regularly.
Yeah,
still doesn't seem like a dream.
No, it doesn't. But I was just realizing that this autumn is it's harvest time, and what these storms bring for this Lord Burrell are all these ships. I'm imagining that Davos isn't the only one or Salvador Sen wasn't the only one who said, "Bugger this! I'm not going to be dealing with these storms. I'm going to be going elsewhere." And enough of their ships broke up and are going to be washed up on the Burrells that eventually this is their harvest time, So this is where they're making their dough.
Yeah, time to loot stuff as it washes up on the shore and pretend you were never there.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen Poldark. I know how
scummy people, but they're like, finders keepers.
No, they did. They adapted to their environment in order to be able to survive. Like they've been doing this for thousands of years. And yeah, there's that mention to the slow I made here too, which is just a quick world building reference, as that was one of the ships from Karth that Danny looked at.
Oh, yeah.
Or
I'm surprised it wasn't the Cinnamon Wind.
You're right.
That shit is everywhere.
The Cinnamon Wind can't crash. It has passengers to take care of.
There's like 20 ships named the Cinnamon Wind. It's a trick.
I really like that name, though. I can understand George using it everywhere. He's like, you know what? No, the Cinnamon Wind is going to be everywhere and nowhere.
But it's like, any of you ever see Lord of War? It's like with Nicolas Cage. He's like a
Nick
gun
Cage
runner.
movie?
Yeah. And there's a scene in that where it's like they're trying to board the boat, and they change the name on the boat or whatever. And later he catches up with him, and he's like, "What was the name on that boat again?" Like everything's just the Cinnamon Wind. It's a clean registry that no one will.
Right.
It's reputable.
Right, that's right. That's really it. Yeah, it's an older code, but I was going to clear them.
I'm actually surprised that Salladhor stayed with Davos and Stannis for so long. I think he was more there for obviously gold reward, but Davos definitely more than Stannis. But I am genuinely surprised he kept popping up and keep thinking he was actually going to get paid in some form.
I mean, it's like when you're waiting for like you're waiting for the bus but you're not sure when it's gonna come. You're waiting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 15 minutes, and then you're like, well, I've waited that long. I might as well wait a minute more, and then it's half an hour. And
in for a penny, in for a pound. That sums up Davos's allegiance to Stannis. He's like, I've already sacrificed 4 sons for this fucking guy. I guess I'm just all in at this point.
Yeah, it has to work out eventually, or else what was it all for?
But this is Salladhor Sand rejecting that notion. He's saying, no, I'm checking out. In fact, he even says, there's a line where he says, like, my crew have sons or children they want to count, or sons they want to count, some line like that.
Well, and as a smuggler, I think you have to be smart enough to do that, right? You have to know when you need to ditch your cargo, or when you need to, know when to fold. Just take a loss. Yeah, I mean, they've learned that over years, and Davos would have learned that too. Maybe he's forgotten a bit. And I mean, it's in his nature. He's so loyal, which is great. But I don't think any reader really blames Salladhor Sand for leaving.
Definitely not at all.
Not at all.
That's why I was surprised.
I wonder what took him so long.
Yeah,
exactly.
So he's doing great right now, raiding in their OC.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't probably even heard of the Saffron Straits yet. So.
Yeah, that's right. There's more than gold over there. There's that saffron. Trying to live that life, that saffron life.
Someone should just set up a bunch of nets along the coastline and be like, well, you don't own the net, so any ship that washes up is by rights mine, because these are my fishing nets. So the saffron's actually mine. Thanks, Burrells. I don't think you'd last very long doing something like that.
I mean, that's right. I mean, yeah, Godric says is, like they're, I have people like you who on this island who are my friends, and the ones who weren't my friends, I hang. So
yeah,
like he he created his own black market, which is frankly a genius move.
Yeah, he might just get out of this alive, and in fact, he'd be fine even if it did flood from the wall. He'd just swim away with his weird hands. Is it called a ductile, or I know that's actually a real condition, but yeah.
Oh really? Oh yeah.
Like web digits. I don't remember what it's called. Yeah.
Fuse. Yeah, I think it's like ductactyl or something like that. Not sure. Yeah, syndactyl. Syndactylism. Anyway, that's what these people have. Which okay. Does anyone really have a grasp on the theory of these squishers and that at all?
Is there like a big Reddit theory on it you're talking about, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this from other places in the fandom as well, but this is the idea that some these squishers are from the world of Ice and Fire, which are
they part like the deep one thing?
Well, they come up.
The deep ones are the
chapters.
Okay,
that's right. So they call them the squishers. Nimblebig Crab calls them the squishers, but I think the deep ones, are from the world of Ice and Fire. But there's a lot of speculation that these are the same. Yeah, because they're like weird water people. They're like, yeah, and the thought is that they come up and like see, you notice that the Sisterton people, given the name of the island, and from this anecdotal evidence of the Lord Godric and his hall was talking about, oh, does anyone want these daughters? I have all these daughters. Homely women make the best wives. All this other stuff about how many daughters he has. I don't think he has a son, and it's just curious that is on the Sisterton on Sweet Sister on this place called Sisterton. Yeah, and it's just very, I don't know. There's not a whole lot there for me, but I just wanted to mention that as it is very prevalent. These deep ones or squishers come up and take the daughters of these Borel men.
Oh, okay. Or I thought you were saying like either they take the men or like there's no other people around, so the men sleep with their sisters and then it creates birth defects. I wasn't really sure what you were saying.
I'm not really sure either. I mean, this is not my theory. I'm just had to mention it because this is a prevalent theory in the fandom. It's not mine, but it's tough.
I don't dive that deep like into the craziness.
Well, especially because the squishers are such like a tertiary thing, that like won't really matter, and so.
I don't think so, but I think they might be giving like foreshadowy hints as to maybe what the others' impact on the plot might be. It's like a microcosm of that, but anyway.
Yes, yeah. I have
tinfoil here. Maybe it's actually the squishers instead of the drowned god that's got patch face and trying to get Shireen to come down with him.
Oh.
Oh ho
ho. Yeah. Oh yeah. So also curious as to what the who they worship their god, because it would seem the drowned god would be a very fitting god to worship for this people. The fact that they were fought over by the Veil. The Veil has a weirwood throne, right? Or a weirwood chair. Yeah. But I don't know. Do you guys know who the Veil's religion of choice is? It's not the Seven, or is it?
I think it's.
You mean the Mountain Clans?
I think it's still the Seven.
I'm sorry, of the Eyrie. The people of the Veil.
Oh yeah, I think they worship the Seven at the Eyrie, right?
Yeah, because I mean,
I think the majority, except for right up north, follow the Seven and probably.
They're still descendants of the Andals, so.
So they would worship the Seven, yeah.
And that was part of it, where they mentioned their old gods, which is just kind of your classic.
Yeah, it says that the majority of them are faith of the Seven, and then you get some that mountain clans and stuff that worship the old gods.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the transition point between those two peoples. So ultimately, they bent their knees to the Veil. So I don't know what god the Borels would worship here on Sisterton, where Davos is, but I just thought I'd be curious as to what whom they worship as the drowned god. It seems like it'd be really ideal. But
so they mentioned in this chapter, and this was also a trivia question at the con. So it's the Lady of the Waves and the Lord of the Skies are kind of like their old gods before they had to bend the knee to the Erins, and that's just kind of your classic example of people who live on the coast, obviously worship the water and the storms is kind of they pay homage to them to help them with
interesting
things. Yeah.
And there's a dualism to the drowned god too, isn't there? There's the storm god and the drowned god.
Yeah, I mean, the Ironborn is just a different example. They have a slightly different backstory, so they created their own narrative for it.
Yeah. Euron is the storm god.
I am the storm, brother. Ooh. Anyway.
His ego's big enough, he'd probably even say that, to be honest.
What's that?
It's as close as he gets to saying, like, yeah, I pushed Balin into the water.
Yeah.
I killed him. Just saying.
So, yeah, I mean, the only other note I have on here is there's a mention that kind of the White Harbor never freezes over during the winter. So that would be kind of an interesting thing to see. It's going to be tested to its limits.
Yeah,
at this point,
which is extremely important. To have a port, which is why Ned, one of the first things he did was, hey, reinforce White Harbor, raise an army, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And they didn't even get into the conflict as much as some of the other ones. So they still have knights and ships and tons of that sweet, sweet silver. So
we get it in a later Davos chapter. He mentions that they've just been building ships for a while now.
Yep.
It won't quite be 1,000, but
no. The Iron Islands build ships. We build ships. It's all cool, man.
Yeah.
The Iron Islands are clearly what's that? It's like Easter Island thought, where they cut down all of their trees and didn't have anything else to eat. It's just
right. Well, they had no other resources.
Right. Well, and it's like, well, maybe the pyres weren't the best idea. It's like not until every tree is gone. Like,
You're gonna need those ships when you got to evacuate Westeros to Essos. That's all I'm saying, man. Everybody's got to get together and evacuate. It's gonna be like, it's like big old water rescue. Everybody's gonna be trying to swim out of there as the others come through.
A big reverse of Nymeria and her 1,000 ships.
No, they all just drown themselves.
Well, the Dornish will stay because they can just hide in the mountains. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gorillas.
All right. Okay. Anybody else have anything on any of these chapters that we maybe glossed over or come to mind?
I think that's all I got.
Yeah. Anybody else ready for a nap?
I'm about to say Marie's falling asleep over there.
Oh yeah. I'm
It's good. I'm so tired. I've fallen asleep on recordings before where I was just it's too late.
So
I was exhausted.
I think I did on the Harry Potter one.
It's Cinco de Mayo. I have a few parties I need to get going to, so that's just fine.
Yeah, man. I got my Cinco on early, yo.
Yeah. So I'm good. So.
All right. So our next episode is, let's see, it's going to be hosted by Bina, and it will cover Dany 3, Davos 2, where he heads off to White Harbor, and Jaime 2 and Feast for Crows. So look forward to that, eventually, sometime in the future. You never know, Yeah, it'll show up on whatever you're listening to at some point, and then you'll enjoy it. And that's how it works. So whether it be Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, Grindr, Twitch, do we Twitch, guys? I'm pretty sure you guys want to watch us live on Twitch. If you donate to our
if I had good internet,
Patreon, if you donate to our Patreon, you can watch us live on Twitch.
Send us money.
Yeah.
We're good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Adam.
Right. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Transition.
This reread is fake as shit.
I'm tired. It's not 6 a.m., but I'm tired.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of
matter
sleep
what time
either
you're
the
like.
last 2 nights, so I'm tired. I'm gonna take a nap after this.
I was at a protest today, so because I'm a French person, so might as well.
Transition.
This reread is fake as shit.
Davos is also hanging out in the belly of the whale, which is a biblical reference, I believe. It's I think Jonas was in the whale. I'm not
Jonah. Yeah, Jonah.
Jonah. There we go. It's been a while since my last.
Yeah, so only 2 of the Jonas brothers ever made it inside of a whale. The other ones, so
Transition.
this reread is fake as shit. Yeah, it was fun, guys. So
Yeah.
those are a couple of short chapters there, but I mean, even the man's chapter is pretty It's significant later. I mean, it's significant there, but you don't feel it at the time. But you're like, wait, what just happened? So
right, it's just there's only when you have 15 chapters in Dance, there's only with Jon, there's only so much you could.
I pretty much love every Davos chapter, but like, it's just I don't know. Is it better when he's away from Stannis? It kind of feels like it's better when he's out on his own.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
I mean,
I
he
love
gets to
him
open up.
with Stannis.
Well, he's a great foil for Stannis. Stannis as an idea.
Right.
And Jon is trying to take that over a bit, or does a bit, where he has to, repost and always be pushing the needs of the Watch ahead of Stannis's. But Davos was great because he did want to push Stannis's best interests, but the way he had to do it was by subverting some of Stannis's maybe worse instincts. So
yeah.
That's what makes him great with Stannis.
Yeah, no, they're definitely good together. I guess I'm just, I want Stannis to succeed at life. I want him to go have a bunch more kids and be happy or something. Whatever you want, Stannis. Or Davos.
What is Stannis right now?
You mean Davos?
I want you to live your best life, Davos. Okay, look, I'm like 3 drinks into Cinco. Okay, so I'm just saying.
But if Davos ever left Stannis, he wouldn't be Davos anymore.
That's true.
And he makes Stannis completely more interesting as well in comparison to the perspective of Stannis through Jon.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna go and sleep. Have a nice evening or day for Leigh, and have fun.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. Good night.
Nice to meet you, Ty. By the way.
Yes, you as well. It's nice putting.
I'm about to say, we should say welcome for your
Yeah.
first cast here.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Very
I enjoyed
smoothly
it.
off. So.
Yeah.
Also,
Alright.
Ty,
I'm up.
you didn't ask.
Bye.
See ya. Yeah, also, Ty, you didn't say. Do you have a least favorite as well, or any theories that you subscribe to?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of theories,
Okay,
tell us one thing that would make us hate you.
I'm not sure. That'd be good.
What crackpot theory do you believe that the rest of us will scorn you for?
Can we ridicule you for?
Okay, let me pull up my doc. You think I'm being sarcastic? I'm not.
Do you listen to History of Westeros a lot?
Hang on a second. I'll put you on speaker. Yeah, so.
Oh, you're actually getting a book at full?
Oh, here we go. So. Okay. Here's an interesting one. I'm not sure that it's something he'd hate me for, but it's yeah. So the armor. Okay, can I say a Winds of Winter spoiler?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should be
Okay.
good here. Yeah.
Spoiler alert. So there's Euron wears armor that is all black ice, like Rhaella's armor. Or I'm sorry, yeah, Rhaella's armor from the Dance of the Dragons. I believe it's the same armor. Now I don't know how that would be unless she were maybe very, very large or something like that. But or Euron is particularly thin. But I think it's interesting that that's the case. It was said in the dragons, the Dance of the Dragons chapters, that she was wearing this armor, this like armored in black ice, and
Valyrian.
The same.
I mean, was it Valyrian steel?
I
outright
haven't heard that, but I mean, to me, like a lot of Euron's claims seem kind of like suspect. Well, I just went to Valyria and I got all the cool stuff and I leveled up.
Well, he's wearing it, right? So,
so
he's got it.
Right, but I mean, like, if it was something that's been here, since the Targaryens came, then it wouldn't necessarily have come from Valyria, right? So,
yeah.
I almost, like, half of me believes that he legit did that and he's got all this crazy magic coming, and half of me just believes that he found like a Targaryen cache, and he found something that's been lost, but doesn't actually have the power to do what he says.
He's a lot like
I would
Mel in
love
that
to see it proved
respect.
that way. Yeah.
He's a lot like Mel because he's using these tricks and subterfuge kind of to propel himself and these claims of his higher, but whereas they might not actually be. There might not actually be anything to them, like actually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, no, I doubt it's gonna happen, but I really did want like some POV to like go through old Valyria, or at least like along the Demon Road and see what the hell's there. But we might just have to get that in kind of the other side books that he's doing.
Yeah, I read the Forsaken, that chapter with Euron, and that blew my mind. That was such a it was such a good chapter. I was like, Jesus Christ,
because it's the reveal of the third act villain. Like,
yeah.
So I guess on a similar note, like since it's a sore subject right now, but like we're getting Fire and Blood, right?
Yeah.
Do we think that we'll get like early Targaryen history in Valyria? Do you think we'll get more details about that?
I doubt it, because I mean they're just focusing on
they're focusing on
kings.
their reigns in Westeros and all that. But maybe I was wondering if we would get, I don't know. That seems like it would be a very George thing to do if he's interested in it.
Right. It would be probably like more hints and stuff, and also there was something on that like post where like the synopsis of it was like the book editors taking liberties where some of it might be lies, like because they mentioned like
like mushroom again.
No, like in the description of the book, like the like the Amazon description of the book or whatever. It mentions like these plot points can be brought up, but then George was like, no, they won't. Like that was just a marketing
well, I mean, like
gimmick.
it feels like every 2 weeks I get something from Amazon that's like new book from George R. Martin, and it's like wild cards. Night flyers. like most of them aren't new, or it's like, oh, he's the editor on that. Like
right.
and I understand, well, because it sells, and you've got George R. Martin huge on the top, and half the times, like there's the title of the book and the actual author isn't even on the front page. Like how pissed would you be if you were the author? You're like,
well, I would be pretty happy because my book is selling.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it is kind of
the door somehow.
Right, it's kind of the point of those anthologies, just trying to get your work out there.
Yeah.
Well, but aren't wild cards written by one person? Each story was written by one person.
Yeah, it's a collection of short
like the
stories,
Warriors or whatever. Is that what it is? Okay, I don't know. I've
right, but yeah, I think it's one.
Pissed me
I
off.
think it's like one or two people that write all of them.
Oh, really?
That's right.
Okay.
Just like Greg, I'm like, wild cards. What's that?
Yeah, I don't give a shit. It's just a shitty Rexman, like.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it sounds like someone basically was like, oh, let's make our own kind of X-Men thing. Oh, okay, that's cool. I've got that. I'm cool with that. Yeah. All right.
Quickly, least favorite.
Least favorite.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's actually going to be, and this is just dramatic because he was my favorite, but it's Tyrion now. Like he is gone.
Fuck you.
He's gone.
Fuck you.
Yeah, he has gone so far down this like rabbit hole. I actually love. There are characters I love to hate, but this guy, he's become bad man. Bad guy.
Has everyone seen Infinity War?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was driven off the damn planet, right? Yeah. I know you have. I'm just saying, like Tyrion was like, so sad he was driven off the planet entirely. It's crazy.
All right. Well, with that, guys, I'm gonna take my leave. Take it easy. Yeah. See you guys around. All right.
Yeah.
Transition.
This reread is fake as shit. Fake Arya and fake Reek and fake Sword, fake Mance, fake Horn, fake Lightbringer, fake Rattleshirt, and Davos is fake dead from the previous book, and we find him in the next chapter. Figuring out what's going on there. So, yeah.
Transition.
This reread is fake as shit.